Welcome to the I Give Life to Life podcast with Coach Nrgy, the single parent's life coach. This is where I will share valuable content on all matters of the heart and various life issues that single dads and single moms face, such as relationships, marriages, divorces, dating, effective communication, work life balance, time management, life changing events, co parenting, you name it. We talk about it all here on this channel. And just so you know, I often have guests that join me. And this week, I do have a guest with me right now. PK, go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners.
Well, hello everyone. My name is PK, and I'm here talking to Miss Energy. We gonna talk about my relationship experiences and where I am currently right now.
That's right. Awesome. So, just like he said, today we are talking about dating. We are going to dive into what has he experienced when it comes to the dating scene, his dating life. So, PK, I'm going to go ahead and let you just kind of take it away. Give us a little bit of background so we can understand a little bit more about you when it comes to dating. How long have you been dating? Are you single? Just give us a little bit of information before we really get started.
All right, cool. All right, so I'm no longer single. I've been married for a year now, a little bit longer than a year. Just had my first son. He is 3 months old. I am, excuse me, I am 40 years old. Um, and of course, I was single before then. So I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I am in the aviation industry, so I got a chance to travel a lot. I was also in the military, so I really got a lot of chances to travel and be in different countries and seen a lot of different things and different people. Uh, my family is also from Ghana, West Africa, so um, I'm very culturally aware of things that's going on in different cultures. That's about it. That's a little bit of background about me. Like I said, I'm 40 years old, and I think that's about it for right now.
Awesome. Okay, that's great information. That's some background for us to just kind of, figure out that baseline. So that's some good information. First and foremost, I definitely want to say congratulations to a 3-month-old son and your first child.
First child, first
Oh
child.
my goodness. And it's
Oh
a
yeah,
boy. Oh my God.
oh yeah,
Congratulations. That is such a blessing.
oh yeah.
And you have been married for a little bit over a year. Okay, so you are fresh.
Fresh
Yeah, I'm super
out the
excited.
water.
Yeah, you are. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you. Let's talk about it right now. So you have, like you said, you're 40 years old, and I assume that you have some experience with dating. Let's go before the date that you got married. Of course, let's go a little bit before that, and let's go into your history just a little bit. Tell me what the dating life, what the dating scene was like for you before getting married. Like with meeting people, with going out, with even just the introduction, the initial introduction of women, like how did that work out for you? Were you more of the type? I'm throwing a bunch of just different questions out there so you
Sure,
can kind of get
sure.
an idea of where to go. Were you the type to approach women, or did you, were you the type that felt that women should approach you? There are so many different opinions out here, from the male perspective versus the female perspective. So, what was yours?
Man, well, I hated it. Number one, I did not like dating. I wanted to be married. I didn't want anything less than that. Why? I have no idea. I just felt that, being a man and getting to that level of marriagehood, it was, I don't know. I really don't have an answer for wanting to be married, but being single, I really didn't like it. I really didn't. Um, would I approach women? I guess it depends on how attracted I was to the woman at the time. I have approached women, but I think I had a different technique. My technique was I wanted that woman to see what I could offer, and if she felt that it was good enough, then she would let it be known by doing something or somehow getting my attention to let her know that, hey, I want to talk to you. And then that way, I guess, what it did, it reduced the amount of letdowns, because I mean, if I knew that you wanted to talk to me, then I would talk to you. You know, the people that I did approach, shockingly, I guess I could say that I never really got let down by it. I guess that was a few cases where I did got turned down, but I mean, it wasn't to the point to where it was like, okay, well, I'm really trying to see what's going on with you. It was more so like, hey, what's up? Uh, I just want to see where you at, and maybe this may be cool, and it may not be cool. But for the most part, if I was really really interested in the person, yeah, I would approach the person and I would make myself known. But oftentimes, what I would do is just, like I said, just sit back and just kind of throw my assets out there, however I did it, and they would notice it, and then they would let me know that, hey, okay, I see your assets. Hey, how you doing? You know. So oh man, I met a lot of women, Uh, uh, I you know I guess I could say that I had a certain type, whatever that type is, and it's kind of hard to compartmentalize, that type. But that was this type of woman that I wanted, and it changed through different phases of life. Of course, when I was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, uh, I guess you could say people were kind of color struck. And for those who don't know what color struck mean, in Louisiana, it's kind of weird. Louisiana was colonized by the French. If you go back and look at history, and you're either, as far as complexion, you were either very light or you were very dark, and you know, opposites will kind of attract. But then that was a time too. Like I said, I was born in I'm 40 years old, so I was born in 1980. At that time, the light skinned brothers was out, and Al B. Shores and all those other celebrities, Halle Berry's and all those kinds of stuff. They were out. So at that time, trying to date, me being dark skinned, I guess I just uh, exposed that. Me being dark skinned, for me, I think it was kind of hard to date because representation on TV was light was right. Everybody wanted to be with the light skin, good hair, quote unquote, right? And I didn't have none of that. So, but things started to change, and when things change, and your Wesley Snipes came in, and your other dark
Mhm.
skinned brothers came in, they kind of changed the game for me, and I didn't know that I was actually in until it was too late. you know, uh, yeah, I was in high school when I finally realized that, oh man, women do like my dark skin, my dark complexion, and by that time I was going off to the military. So if I didn't expose that yet, I was in the military. So when I joined the military, dating was also different as well too, because I wasn't in one single place at the same time, and I was stationed in Jacksonville, Florida, and I had a different mindset of who I wanted to date too, or my type. My type changed. I guess I don't know. I guess you could say that I was kind of looking for the bikini girl, the girl in a tight bikini, and she's running along the beach kind of vibe. Well, Jacksonville or Florida, you don't really see that. You don't really see that quote unquote type. So being in Jacksonville, I was kind of disappointed. Now, mind you, too, I did have a girlfriend in high school in Louisiana. I did have a girlfriend in Florida, uh, uh, but of course, it didn't work out. And then I moved to Georgia, and now I live in Georgia right now, and Georgia just really opened up my eyes to different types of women. Of course, if you know anything about Atlanta, Atlanta is considered the Black Mecca. I am attracted to Black women, African American women, or we'll just keep it right there. Yeah, African American women, and living in Atlanta. I mean, this is the Mecca of it. And oh my God, man, the women out here are very beautiful. Uh, but they're definitely on a different level when it comes to experiences and the games that are played, the different things that they expect from their men. You know, it's a lot different. So let me stop right here because I want to give you a chance to breathe too. I know I said a lot right now. So
Oh man, now you are doing fine. Let's see. You mentioned dating in Atlanta, and you mentioned that it's a different level, or the women in Atlanta are on a different level, and the types of games that they play are different.
yes.
Can you give me some examples of what dating in Atlanta is like for a
Now,
man?
okay, so this is where we can really get into it because, like I say, Florida and Louisiana was so long ago.
Okay.
All right, Atlanta. Oh my God.
Uh-oh.
So
Uh-oh.
yeah, competition is serious here in Atlanta, man. It's oh wow. Well, the thing about Atlanta is that you have to start dealing with the region of United States and where you're at. So of course Louisiana is in the south. I mean, I'm sorry, Atlanta is in the south. And Atlanta being in the south and also being African American melting pot or mecca, you can almost although it's in the South, you have a lot of women from all over the place. So you can meet someone from California, New York. You also meet people from New York and Jersey and Baltimore and all these different up north places. You still meet your people from Louisiana and Florida, but it is if you came to Atlanta to date a Southern woman, you may not get that on your first, second, third, fourth try, because everybody migrates to Atlanta. So that's number one. Number two, Atlanta is a big city. Uh, it may not be big geographical wise, or I forget the term that I want to use. Uh, but it is big as far as how the city moves. Uh, and with that being said, it's a lot of the lack of a better term, city slicking going on.
Mm.
Yeah. So
So can you describe that for those who don't know what city slicking or being a city slicker is?
the best way I could describe that is, more so like games, kind of like, it's a big city vibe, meaning that in a small city, uh, the issue that you may have in a small city, everybody may be in your business. Um, everybody may know everybody. Well, in Atlanta, it's not like that. So it being a big city, uh, you're gonna. It's very easy to meet the person that could pull a scam on you, and once they pull a scam on you, you may not ever see them again. Um, another word for city slicking is or another term I would say is the person that's trying to get over to better themselves. I
Mm.
mean, so I guess that can kind of happen anywhere, but since Atlanta is more like a everything in Atlanta is kind of like about how you look, how you move, who you move with. So everybody's trying to get on the next level,
Mhm.
and in order to get on that next level, somebody may step on your neck to get there.
Mm.
You know, and that's what I would consider city slicking.
Okay.
And with that too, it doesn't matter what age. Like my first experiences in Atlanta was getting scammed was by an elder lady in a wheelchair. She
Mhm.
was literally in a wheelchair. Not trying to date. It was with some taxes and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
yeah, she got me pretty bad. Yeah,
Uh-oh.
yeah. So it's a lot of that going on, and I mean it ranges from young to old. So talking about dating, right?
Mhm.
So I did meet this woman one time, and she will only call me during lunch and dinner time, you know. And I didn't catch on to it quick enough, but I did catch on. And so what would happen is I would call her, and she would give me all the different excuses that she was busy and whatnot, so whatever have you. And and then when I did talk to her, or when she did respond, she would tell me, "Hey, meet me around 5 o'clock at this particular restaurant." So I'm like, okay, I wanted to know the girl. I wanted to get to know her, and so I did. And so we would eat, we would talk, and we would kind of just laugh it up about whatever. And nothing too serious, because you don't want to be too pushy as a man, So you're just trying to mingle and get to know the person that you're sitting with. And then when she was done, she was like, "Okay, well, I got to go study," and that was it. And then I wouldn't hear from her for the rest of the night. Then the next day would come around. She's like, "Hey, I enjoyed myself with you. Can we meet at this restaurant at four
Mm,
o'clock?"
okay.
you
I
know?
think I'm sensing a pattern. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So I would go, we would meet at the restaurant, laugh and joke, have a good time. She would eat and she would leave. On my way home, I'm trying to call her, make sure that she made it home, and no response, no nothing, wouldn't check on me. I'm like, all right. And then of course the next day, same thing.
Mm.
So at that point in time, I was like, okay, you know what? Yeah, you just trying to get fed. You using me for a meal ticket. Yeah, and that's the city slicking, because she's not. In other words, she wasn't interested in me. She was just trying to get fed.
Man, it's so funny. And I'm gonna jump in real quick with this one
Mhm.
because this is something that it's a topic that is discussed all of the time when it comes to dating and with men uh having an issue with paying for the dates or paying for the meals because of, I would assume, the same issue that you're describing right now. And it's created this, I call it a problem, to where now dating is not organic because now both people, both sides, the male and the females, they're kind of like having to figure out, okay, what position do I play next, or what move do I make next, based off of the experiences that you've had with said person. And so it's funny that you mentioned here in Atlanta, that particular lady was more of like a meal ticket, or looking at you as her meal
Yeah,
ticket. And so I'm going to ask you, because I don't want to assume, but I'm going to ask you, were you paying for each of those dates, or did you ever
yeah,
go Dutch?
yeah. No, 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 no. Well, yeah, no, she didn't pay for anything.
Okay.
Didn't pay for anything. No, no. I mean, well, okay. So let's go back to you know because if we're talking about like paying for a meal or whatever have you, so let's understand where I was at financially. Like
Hmm.
I was doing pretty well. Uh, I wasn't at six figures. But I was really up there. I was three-quarters of the way, or above three-quarters of the way of six figures at that time.
Hmm.
And so I had money, and I wanted to show the woman at the time that, hey, okay, you know what? It's this is one thing that you don't have to worry about. In other words, going back to what I was saying earlier, remember how I was talking about how I wouldn't necessarily approach, I would just kind of dangle out my assets, and then
Hmm.
she would notice it, and then hopefully that would be enough to keep me getting more time with her. So, and then and at the time too, dating had changed. Dating had changed. So I met her off of an app. All right. You can use whatever app you want to
Hmm.
use, either it being Tinder or whatever it was, Plenty of Fish or whatever it was, or I think Swipe is Tinder. I don't know right now. But it was one of those apps. But still in all, I still wanted to dangle out my asset, and one of those ways of dangling was paying for the meal. And then I would say, uh, granted, hats off to her. she wasn't trying to get fed filet mignon. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the first time we went out, it was like a taco spot. If you're in the Atlanta area, there's a spot called Ten Lizzie's, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it's a little taco spot. So, no more than about $15-$20 a meal. That's $40. But I would say it does get expensive because I mean, what 4 times 3 is 12, right? So that's $120.
Mm-hmm.
3 dates. Yeah. So it can get expensive, but I mean, like I had it, so it was okay. But I did
Mm-hmm.
not have it to keep doing it, and I'm glad that I was able to catch on and just call it off. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Yes. Thank you. So, did going through that particular experience, did it affect your standard, your typical, what was your norm of picking up the ticket, taking care of the bill, paying for whatever,
No,
your outing with your date? Did that
no.
affect you moving forward, or did you maintain your level of standard of being the man and taking care of the meal or taking care of whatever the date is?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. No, so it did not change how I thought about paying for a meal. So I'm only assuming because you're into that. Uh, I guess other men have issues with paying for meals. Uh, I I'm asking you too.
Hmm. Yeah, so it's definitely a hot topic out there. Anywhere on social media, anywhere in just groups of especially with black men, it's something where it's an issue. It tends to be an issue for a lot, not all, but for a lot of black men, to
Wow.
want to pay for the date, especially if they're not getting anything in return. So it's kind of
Oh,
like,
wow.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
No. Yeah. No. 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 I never. That was never a time that I went out on a date and not paid the meal or not offered to pay the meal.
Hmm.
I did. I can't. I don't remember who it was. But I do remember there was a time where the woman actually offered to pay the meal, and she insisted on paying the meal. Now, did she insist on paying the meal because she wasn't interested? Was that her way of telling me that she wasn't interested? I don't recall. Uh, she just and I mean, of course, it didn't. None of those women that I'm talking about in the past is my wife now.
Hmm.
So, but no, it was never an issue, and it never. Okay, so in the case of the woman that used me for a meal ticket, she was just not the right one, and that was just it.
That's right.
And yeah, so she wasn't the right one. She wasn't the person that I wanted to be with. I caught on, and I ended it, and that was it. So she had to find a new meal ticket. And hopefully she learned that that's not the way to pay for meals,
Hmm.
or better yet, it's only temporarily. And like I say, just luckily enough for me that I was in a position where I could, so it didn't break me to pay for the meal.
Hmm.
Um, but talking about paying for meals again, I mean, yeah, it's you know, 3 meals, $120 a day. Uh, Actually, so what I think I said $20 per meal, right? So
Hmm.
that's 2 meals. So 120 times two, yeah, it starts to add up. So that's 240. If we double it. So yeah, it could add up, and but I was okay with it still. I was okay with it because I was out there trying to meet someone.
Hmm.
I am a provider. I want to provide. I always wanted to provide. So it was never an issue. No, it didn't change how I thought. She just wasn't the one.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And you ended up answering what the underlying question that I was coming around to is the fact that, even though that particular person you found out, or you caught on to her pattern, and you found out and just, discovered or decided that, hey, you know what, she's not the one for me. So let me move on. However, let me not make every other woman after her pay for, the her mistakes, so to speak. Let me not change up who I am, as an individual, of wanting to be the provider, of wanting to, take care of whatever the date is, or be the person that takes care of the ticket or whatever it is.
Yeah,
I'm not going to change that just because of this other person who may have, gotten over on me. So I applaud you and commend you for that. And I'm pulling at that because I want to make a point about it. As we date, as people date and get to know a person, it it's not healthy, and it's not a wise decision, and it's not fair, on the next person that you meet, for them to have to pay for what the last person did to you. Yeah, of course you want to learn from it, you want to become more aware of it, and you want to, have keep your eyes open for, familiar patterns, like you may have experienced before. However, it doesn't mean that all of the other women that you would have met after that person was going to do the same thing, and therefore needed to, have a different type of PK, than what would have been your norm.
yeah,
Because I see that a lot, whenever I'm discussing relationships or just discussing dating period with people. I see where, they may have been hurt by what someone may have done, whether it's the male or the female. They would have been hurt or would have gotten hurt by what someone else had done. And because of that one person, they decide to change up their whole being. They decide to change up their whole way of doing things, as opposed to, just saying, hey, this particular person, they just weren't worth it. They weren't worth my time. They weren't worth my efforts, or, anything like that. And for me to just, cut that person loose and move on and find someone else, but not to cut the other person or this next person short.
yeah. So,
So,
I had to think about this while you were talking, right?
mhm,
I was thinking about, you know, all of the other people that I dated, and did their differences or their agendas change how I dated the next person? So I started to say no. But what did not change with me was my who I was as a person.
right.
My my strategy changed, but
Hmm.
not me as a person. You know, my
Yes.
integrity as a person.
Yes.
So my integrity is as a person is that I'm a man. I want to provide. I want to show that my woman that I can provide. I'm still going to treat you with respect. I mean, because when I think about that, man, dating in Atlanta, right?
Hmm.
You know, going back to like thinking about all of the other women that I dated and the things that they tried to do, man, yeah, I'm supposed to be a bitter guy, you know, because I met some characters. I
Hmm.
got to admit, you know, but you know, I like I said, what I did was change how I approached the situation, or I was now a little bit more sharper on the games that were being played. But like I said, I never changed my integrity. No.
Awesome. And integrity, I love that word. I am so happy to hear you say that word, because that is a very important word whenever we're talking about dating and just being an upstanding individual, in my opinion. So I do want to ask you, what kept you from being, because it was a choice. We all, at some point, we all have the choice to make of, are we going to let experiences with people from our past change us, change, like you said, the integrity, our makeup, who we are as an individual? Are we going to let our history of people and bad relationships that didn't go well, are we going to let that change who we are? Not, not change us, or to not help us be more wise with how we may do things, but the core being, are we going to let our history of dating change us to becoming that bitter woman or becoming that bitter man? So for me, I always say that it's a choice. We've all been hurt to some degree by someone at some point in our lives.
Oh yeah.
And we all have a choice of how we allow that hurt to continue with us throughout life. And so I want to ask you,
Hmm.
what kept you from choosing to become that bitter guy?
Uh, I mean, it just wasn't in me. Okay, so I think a lot of that has to do with your confidence. You know, I knew who I was as a man. Uh, I you know, growing up in Baton Rouge, I mean, I always wanted to be something. I always wanted to be someone. I always wanted to be known for something. And, that drive, that aspiration, I guess you could say too, uh that that that, that it was always in me to always check my ego and always be a stand-up guy. I mean, that was always first. And I guess also too, uh being raised in the South, being raised by my mom and my dad. So with that being said, let's put this out there. I had my dad in my life. Although my dad was very old, my dad, he had me at a real late age. He was basically my grandfather, to be, if you want to just put it that way. But still, in all the little things that I did pick up from him, he was always, never change who you are as a person. Never let a situation change you. And I mean, it just stuck with me. So, although these women had different agendas that were not just genuinely, hey, I want to be with you and I want to love you, I want to get to know you. It was never a doubt in my mind to change who I was and treat someone differently. Um, could I have been that person? Probably. I could have gotten full of myself. If I had known. You know what? So it's I'm trying to answer this question the realistically. Although I knew myself as a man, I really didn't know how much of a man I really was. Meaning that I didn't know how much asset I actually had. I kind of figured and thought that all men were doing what I was doing. And I realized that now at 40 that a lot of men are not doing this or doing what I'm doing. So what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, so before I really wanted to get married, one of the things that I wanted to do was make sure that I was stable, meaning financially, meaning a roof over my head, meaning able to have options of travel, things like that. And so my whole drive was always to get to a level with my career where I could get these assets and then attain these assets and maintain these assets, and then I will be able to provide for my wife. Well, a lot of these men are not doing this. They are just out there in the streets, or I guess you could say, uh, roaming around and trying to just you know get off, lack of a better term. And that wasn't never my goal. So by the time I got my house and my vehicles and my money up, I was already way advanced than a lot of other men out there, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
you know so my confidence level was already up, and then when I realized that a lot of men didn't have what I had, my confidence level went way up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it was, there was no need for me to treat anybody bad. Here's another thing too. Going back to this color struck thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Louisiana, right? Louisiana has beautiful people, black, beautiful women, mixed, beautiful women, Creole type women, if you want to call it that, light skin, dark skin, whatever you want to use. I mean, they're just beautiful, right? And being color struck at that time, I associated beautiful with smart, and I quickly realized that that's not true. I also attached beauty with accomplishments, and I realized that's not true neither. So when I was out there dating, I realized that, okay, well, you know what? Just because a woman is beautiful doesn't mean that she's successful or accomplished or she has all of the things that she needs. So I went in the game kind of knowing that already, you know. So I knew what I had to offer, and I knew for the most part, you know, some women that I was going to meet didn't have what I want them to have. Not necessarily anything to offer, but I think as a woman too, you should have certain assets, and they didn't have it. And I, so let's say it this way. Let's say it this way. Going back to that one woman that was using me for a meal ticket. Well, I mean, if you can't pay for your meal, then that just tells me as well that you're not for me, because you know you should be able to pay for your meal, but at the same time too, because I took your time, I want to be able to pay for your meal.
Hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Yeah. So it was although she was using me, I learned a lot from her, and I learned that she wasn't the one for me. So it kind of goes hand in hand, you know. So that was no need for me to change my ways, because she just exposed to her, she just exposed to me that she wasn't the one for me. So you know, it kind of went hand in hand.
That's right. So
Mhm.
let me piggyback off of the question that I asked a second ago, but I'm going to shift it a little bit based off of what you just said.
Sure.
You were able to get to a point where you came up with the decision that that woman was not for you, you were not for her, based off of the assets and things that you were able to bring to the table versus what she could or could not have brought to the table. um, for men in Atlanta, and I'm just saying Atlanta because we are talking about dating in Atlanta, but
Mhm.
for the men in Atlanta who also have been used as a meal ticket, what advice could you give them, or whether it be just one main thing or a top three pieces of advice that you would give them on how to deal with moving on without becoming bitter after finding out that they were used?
No, just simply move on. I mean, so the one thing about men that I'm starting to learn as I get older is that a lot of men are really emotional, you know. And I guess that's a different trait, you know, or I guess that could be a characteristic of a man, you know, that may be that one particular person characteristic. It's just not me, you know. Uh you know, so I just, the advice that I would say is just move on, you know. Um I mean, so let's so although you asked me the question, let me kind of add on to your question if you
Hmm.
don't mind.
Okay.
Right. So being used for a meal is on a small scale. You know what, let's do it this way. I adapted something in my uh family, uh things that I need to get upset about, right? uh you know, me and my wife, we are new in the marriage world, and we still right now trying to figure each other out, right? And you know, little things happen around the house where I would get upset about it, or I used to get upset about it. And you know, she would say, "Well, that's small," and I would say, "Well, no, no, that's kind of big." I mean, I'm upset about that. You need to know that I'm upset about it. And then it becomes this whole tension in the house, for a little bit, and it's not needed. Well, I had to adapt something into my life that would prevent me from getting upset about everything that, or every little thing that she did that I didn't like. And that was, I had to put a dollar amount to the situation. So realistically, you can't put a dollar amount to every single little thing, right? But you kind of can, if you just choose to look at things that way. Because and why did I use the dollar amount, right? Well, I use the dollar amount because now me having a wife and a son, my money has to stretch three different ways instead of just one way. And everything does have a dollar amount. Okay. All right. So with that being said, my rule for my house, or my level of angerment for my household is $500, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if my wife does something that costs something to be less than $500, or was worth $500 or less than $500, I don't get upset about it. But if it's above $500, then I probably would. Meaning that let's use it for this. Let's use this example, and then I'll get back to your question.
Okay.
All right. I have a lot of glassware, and well, my wife is going to kill me if she hear this, boy. But she was breaking a lot of glassware, and I was like, man, we're literally running out of cups, and and I would get upset if she broke a glass. Now, glass is going to break, it's definitely going to break, because I mean, it's glass. And I would go off, man, why you broke the glass? Could you just be careful with the glass? And, this is a fine china. I bought this from Macy's, Macy's Chinaware, take it easy with the glass. And I mean, like every week she was breaking something. Well, that glass cup probably costs in the box, of 12, probably cost, that one glass probably costs $1 or $2. And here I am getting upset about $1, or $2. I mean, it's not that serious, Now, if my wife was driving my car, oh, I don't know, because somebody may hear this, may say, well, it's just a car. Well, yeah, it's just a car. But then at the same time, too, she's driving the car and she's texting and whatever have you, and she deliberately hit something, or not even deliberately. Let's say even make a mistake. She made a mistake and hit something. And it's a mistake, but she wasn't paying attention. And that's what caused the mistake. Yeah, I would probably be upset about it. Yeah, and yes, I do got insurance. But I mean, still in all, like, it's going to cost a pretty penny to get that fixed. Of course, I want my wife to be safe. Yes, I want her to be safe, and I hope my child will be safe. And this situation hasn't happened. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. But
Mm-hmm.
but if she was safe, but she caused some damage, or she didn't pay attention to something, and it cost more than $500, and it could have been prevented, yes, I'm going to be very upset about it. All right. So with me, like I said, I added a dollar amount to everything. So now let's go back to if I was single and I went on a date. Well, okay, that's $20. Well, your limit doesn't have to be $500. If your limit is $200 or even $100. Well, okay, guess what? Well, you know what? Let's keep it at 200. Let's keep it at 200. At $200, if you caught on to the games that was being played and it got you to 200, you know, you could either be upset with yourself first and not necessarily upset with the girl, and because you caught on to the situation, and you may be more upset with yourself first, that the fact that it took you this long to get to catch it. But if it's a meal and those meals were like $20, no, just let it go. When you're dating, you're putting yourself out there. So in other words, when you're in these situations and you're dating, I mean, you can very well get out of these situations as well too. You
Hello.
don't, yeah, you don't have to be in these situations.
Mm-hmm.
If you're dating, is more so about you, because you're not forced to be in these situations. And if a woman or a man has an agenda and you're getting played by the agenda, uh, it's kind of on you for not catching the agenda. I mean, we're all adults, you know, and if if you don't catch the agenda and you're getting played, that's kind of on you unless they're lying to you. So what do you got to say? What do you think?
So I'm following what you're saying, and I'm going to do my best to paraphrase it and let me know if I'm on the right track.
Mhm.
I do agree with you that, it's all about accountability. We as the individual person with whatever relationship or dating situation that we put ourselves in, we put ourselves in it. And so whatever we end up going through, however we are affected by that situation, that's on us. We have to look at ourselves, as opposed to looking at the other person, because, they are who they are, but, we should have been mindful, more mindful or more wise, to be able to see the agenda or to see the games that were being played or to see the patterns that a person was using.
Yeah,
And unless, of course, like you also said, unless it involved the other person's games involved lying, because you can only do so much with the information that you're given. And if you're given,
absolutely.
all of these lies, then you're basing your actions, your responses, your continuation in that relationship based off of the lies that that person has told you. So outside of that, then yes, I totally agree. With holding yourself accountable, and that's something that I talk about all the time. Is, you cannot point the finger at someone else. And if you find yourself in these situations or these types of relationships, whether they're exactly the same or have some sort of similarities, you have to figure out what's that common denominator, and that common denominator is you. It's the same hard conversation that I had to do for myself years ago. It's the same hard conversation I had to have with myself, excuse me, years ago, when I just constantly found myself dating these same types of people. And what the part that made me upset about me and my choices was that I was spending so much more time in these relationships when I knew better, because I saw the agendas. I saw the games that were being played. I, was hip to the game, but yet I still chose to stay in it, for
Yeah,
whatever my reasons were. And so therefore uh, a lot of time ended up being quote unquote wasted, or used rather, ended up being used in these situations, in these relationships that were not going anywhere. And
yeah.
so after looking in the mirror, after looking at myself, and after, just going through some more personal development over the years, it doesn't take me that long. Yeah, I still end up meeting people who are terrible people, who, are playing games, who are lying about who they are, what they do, what they have, all of that type of crap, all that type of nonsense. However, the difference is now it doesn't take me as long to get hip to their game. And it doesn't take me as long for me to say, you know what, I'm gracefully backing out. And so,
Well,
mhm,
I was gonna say too that goes back to that city slicking mindset or that city slicking definition that I brought
mhm,
up earlier. You know, being in Louisiana, Baton Rouge, a small city, you know, when you go out to eat, everybody knows you, everybody sees you. So the mindset in like Louisiana, you're not going to go out in public with somebody you just don't want to go out in public with.
mhm,
But Atlanta is so much of a big city. You go out with this one, two person, on a date. Again, you may not ever, never, ever see this person again. So some people, some women, the ones that have agenda, they will use that to their advantage,
mhm.
and and you just have to be hip to the game to know that, hey, this is some of the games that are being played by some people. Okay, don't get caught up in the game. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So yeah, like I said, so with that, just to move on, just simply move on. Just be aware enough to know that, hey, some of these games are being played, and it may be being played on you. Just end the game and move on, because that person is not for you. That's it.
Right. And I'm gonna the coach in me is stepping out right now. It's easier said than done, to just be able to say, oh, we'll just move on, or just get out of the situation. It is easier said than done. So I'm going to take it a little bit further. In
Mhm.
order to be able to move on after being hurt, after feeling like you've been betrayed, after the feeling of being disrespected and having your time wasted or your money wasted or your efforts wasted, no matter if you were the man or the woman, in order to be able to move on, you have to work through whatever the thing, whatever it was that you were going through. And the first step is to be aware of it, just like you said, PK. Be aware of what happened, and don't try to deny it. Be aware of it, acknowledge it, and work through those moments. Like, actually stop, take a second and think about, okay, when we were having this conversation, what was it that this person said that I knew that wasn't right? Or what did this person do whenever, on this particular day, that just did not sit well with me? This also just kind of goes to another topic that I'll be recording at some point. It's talking about trusting your instincts. You have to learn to be able to trust yourself, because a lot of the times that we find ourselves in these situations and constantly finding ourselves being played, it's because we no longer trust ourselves. We no longer trust our instincts, because we feel as if we have let ourselves down before. And so we don't even, we just kind of let those that sixth sense, or that intuition, or that gut feeling, we just let it go to the wayside. And we have to get back to being able to trust who we are, and to trust what we see. We have to start believing a person whenever they show us the things that they're showing us, and not trying to cover it up, or put a bow on it in order to just make it fit or make it work for the situation at hand. It's definitely some work that has to be put into moving on, or just letting a situation go. But all in all, absolutely is so much better to just let it go, as opposed to harping on it, and allowing it to affect you now as an individual, affecting your integrity, and affecting you as your character, moving on with the next person, or just moving on in life in general, to where it is now turned your insides black, and you can't even recognize your what used to be your normal self. So that yeah, I totally understood where you were going, as far as the whole explanation and breakdown about just letting go. But I wanted to break it down a little bit further, just because I understand the human mind. I understand it's not that easy to just let it go. So
Yeah.
I definitely
So
wanted to break it down.
now I know we this is a podcast, and I know you're giving advice, and so I do want to ask a question on just from what you have been hearing outside of other talking to other people. Are men really having an issue with uh not letting go of a date and a meal? I mean, is it that serious now?
Yeah, so men are having issues with not being able to let go of the dates, to the point to where now, as they move forward, not paying for the date, which to most a lot of people, not going to say all, but to a lot of people who are of a certain age, and who have a certain caliber of respect, and just like you said, just simply being a man, that's just ingrained in them, to take care of whatever the date is. Like, so for me, for an example, I was raised to where, and not just raised, but then even taught by the men that became my friends as I started growing older, and becoming older as a young adult, and then now as an adult. A lot of my male friends, and then even family members, would tell me, don't pull your wallet out whenever you're around me, and you should never pull your wallet out whenever you're around a man, because if that man is a real man, he will not allow you to even pull your wallet out or have to pay for anything. He will always take care of that, and that's just because of what a quote unquote what a man does. And so there is a huge shift, a huge difference nowadays, with a lot of the men now. I'm not gonna. I was going to say what particular generation, but it's kind of mixed now, and it's a lot of the older men, not just millennials, excuse me, but a lot of the older men are now coming, uh, are using that now as a thing that they no longer do, because of how they've been hurt in the past. And so men equate money for a meal to, okay, is she going to give me sex, or is she going to give me some sort of pleasure, or whatever? Like, what am I getting out of it? If I'm spending money on this particular female, then what am I getting in return? And if she's not giving me anything in return, then why is she expecting me to spend my money? Like, we both have to expend something. And so it's kind of like they equate sex, or a woman's body, or some sort of favor, to their money that they're spending. And so,
Wow.
yeah, it's this
Ooh.
big uproar that, has been going on. It's been going on for years, but, definitely more so within the last year and a half, maybe 2 years, where it's just been more out there online. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
I hope I answered that clearly.
yeah. So if I think we're on this thing to kind of give different opinions and different
Yes.
suggestions, right? All right. So as a man, right, I would say that to other men that are doing this, or putting that much energy, right? Yeah, that's your name. We're putting that energy into to a meal and that moment. Uh, I I think it's more or other situations that's going to come up in life that are way more important than paying for a meal. Um, yeah, there's so much happening in life right now to the point to where if you had to focus on if your only focus is paying for a meal thinking that you're going to get this woman's body or sex in return for that, I think you probably need to check yourself. And that may be easier said than done still as well. But I mean, like, I mean, right now we're in a pandemic, right? I mean, that's something that I would probably focus on more than wondering if she's going to give me some sex because I paid for a meal. Health, you know, financial building, building your finances and your portfolio, work, kids, family, friends, all of those things has, to me, are way more important than when I was dating and worrying about if I was going to get sex for paying for a meal. I guess it could be that way for some geographics, or demographics, I should say. But not here in Atlanta. Well, I guess it could happen in Atlanta too. It just wasn't me, you know.
Hmm.
Um, uh, when I paid for a meal, when I went out to eat, I went out to eat. But okay, let me say it this way: the way how I looked at going on a date and going out to eat when I was dating is because I wanted to go out to eat. I ordered what I wanted to order. And because I'm spending time with this person, uh, I want to share my time with this person. I want them to enjoy the experiences that I'm having. That's how I looked at dating and going out to eat. I also looked at it as thanking that woman for giving me some time. Uh, so because time is something that you can't get back, right? Uh, Now I would say let's do it this way. Everybody is not worth Roof Chris. We're not. I wasn't. If you're taking someone out to Roof Chris on a first date, I guess you could. I mean, if you got it like that, But I mean, is it more so about Roof Chris, or if you're on a date, is it more so about Roof Chris and spending money, or is it about the time? You know, uh, I mean, if you like Roof Chris and you want to give your time with someone at Roof Chris, I mean, you're more than welcome to do that. But I mean, if the focus is the date, then 10 lizards is fine. You know, uh, I guess it kind of depends on where your financial status is. Somebody's gonna laugh when I say this, but Taco Bell may be fine. But if you can afford Taco Bell, that's what it is. Because it's not about Taco Bell. It's about the time you spend it with the person and getting to know with the person. You know, I mean, one of my best dates. Well, my wife is gonna kill me again, right? Yeah, one of my best dates was at Walmart. We went to Walmart and we went grocery shopping. You know, because again, it's not about the location; it's about the time you spend it with the person. So, so talking about agendas, right? If you are going on a date with a woman and expecting to get sex, then the agenda is not about the woman. The agenda is just about sex, and then you're lying to that person. In other words, that's almost as it's the same thing as what the woman was doing to me by me being a meal ticket. Her agenda was a meal ticket, where my agenda was her time. I wanted her time. Well, if your agenda is sex after a meal, or your expectation is sex as a after a meal, then really truly you're you're not about that person's time. And then that's wrong. I mean, if you want sex, just put it out on Front Street. Hey, look, I like you. I think you're sexy. I want to have sex. Believe it or not, it works. Don't ask me how I know, but I'm just saying, it does. Just be straightforward with that person and let them know, hey, look, this is what I'm after, and they're gonna agree to it or not. That's my advice.
Right. And hey, I'm right there with you. With everything that you were saying, I totally agree. And to just take it even one little layer extra, in these in this particular situation or example that we're talking about, the men would put the same value on their money as the woman would put the same, put that value on her body. And so that's where the disagreement, so to speak, would come into play. So men would feel that, okay, well, if a woman is going to, value her body and not want to put out for, let's just use an example, because this is also part of the conversation. Sometimes that was going on as far as what is it called? The Think Like a Man, Act Like a Woman, Think Like a Man, and the 90-day rule, that book and that movie.
Which I don't
Um,
like. I no.
so with that, using that as an example, men would say, okay, well, if women are going to, hold out for 90 days, hold out on sex, hold out, with their body for 90 days, and I'm going to hold out with my money for 90 days.
I don't like
So that's what
that.
I'm saying. Like, men would put the value of what they will equate it to, a woman's body, they will equate it to their money.
Yeah, and well, I'm assuming that people do that, but that's not dating. Not in my book. I don't see that as a dating. I see that as an agenda, and for the men who put a dollar amount on a woman's body or a act, uh, I think it's just wrong. I mean, if you're doing that, but then you're expecting a relationship too. I think you need to reevaluate what you're really after. I don't think anything would become successful or will manifest from that kind of mindset of thinking that, hey, if I took this woman out, she's supposed to give me sex. You know what? Since we're trying to help people, I would tell that man that thinks that way that, okay, well, just try what I'm saying. Take the woman out on a date and leave after it's over. If she expects you, because I'm pretty sure that energy is probably being given off. If she expects you to turn around and say, "Hey, come home with me," and you just leave, that may further raise her interest in you, that it may not be that day, it may be the next day. You know, I mean, it may be the day to it may be she may ask you, well, why haven't you asked me for sex? You
Mhm.
know, let me also address the one thing that I just said about the 90-day rule and all that stuff. I just don't like that kind of stuff. I don't. I don't like it. I don't agree with it only because I mean everybody do have their needs and people do have different agendas. All right. In other words, if your agenda is to have sex and that woman agenda is to have sex, then guess what? Y'all gonna have sex. And y'all gonna have sex, or what they call it, a one night stand, or it may be the next day, it may be within 60 days, it may be 90 days, it may be 30 days, your agendas have to line up. And if they do align, then it's gonna happen. So I know the Steve Harvey book. I guess we shot out Steve Harvey, right? Advertisement, right? But I mean, I know those books are kind of like a guideline. It's not a standard, or it's not a for sure statement. But I mean, you know, if you are having help or are having issues with dating, then I guess those books could work. You know, I just don't think that it's 100% standard. You know, so with that being said, I would just say, like, live your life. Live your life. Just don't expect anything to happen from. Don't expect something from someone else. Let that person present it to you. You know, don't try to force anything on somebody. Just let it kind of naturally happen. Because again, when it comes to sex, everybody has needs. Uh, sex is a need. I feel that sex is a need. And if your need lines up with her need, then guess what? It's gonna go down. you know. But if not, just wait till your turn. You know, that's how I feel about it.
Right. Yep. I totally agree. Definitely, definitely understand, especially more so the point about when you were talking about that book or the movie, not being the standard, to have to go by. I do agree that it's more of a guideline, but at the end of the day, I say that, each person has to come up with their own standard, whatever it is that, they're going to accept, whatever it is that they're not going to accept. Like they have to, each person needs to come up with their own, what I'd like to call their non-negotiables. And by the way, if
Yeah.
you are listening, that is another episode that I will record, your non-negotiables whenever you are dating someone or in a relationship. So be on the lookout for that. But those non-negotiables, having those created or thought of or decided on before you get into a relationship will definitely help you navigate the relationship, or will just help you navigate the dating scene overall, to where when you are coming against someone who's playing games, or you're coming against someone who has a hidden agenda that doesn't align with your agenda, then you will be able to spot that, and you will have already come up with or decided on how you're going to handle that, how you're going to maneuver in that situation, how you're going to maneuver that conversation with that person, or that date with that person, or whatever it is at that time. So coming up with, just learning who you are and figuring all of those things out before you jump into a relationship, are the things that I recommend for people to do. Because once you're in that relationship, it's much more difficult to come up with your standards, once you're in it, because now you're more involved, now you're in the middle of things, now you're in the thick of things, and it's much more difficult to say, well, if this person does this, then I'm not going to accept this. But if your heart is already in it, or your time or money or efforts, you're already in it, it's much more difficult to put a stop to things. So I agree, this is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're almost wrapping up. I do want to hit on one thing that you mentioned, and
Sure.
if you want, I'm not going to ask you to elaborate unless you're comfortable with elaborating on it,
Let's
because
go
I don't
for it.
want to assume, but I think it's very important for you to either you or myself to explain what you meant by the comment that you said, men are too emotional, or men are emotional, and you're not as emotional, or you're not emotional. What do you mean? And let me know if you don't want to answer, and that's totally
No, no,
fine.
no, no. Let's
You
do
just
it.
say
Let's do it.
men are too emotional, because
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So, I mean, yes, we all have emotions. But I think what I was really trying to highlight is the fact that there are other issues in life that, as men, we need to worry about, other than being upset about a meal and paying for a meal. And I guess you still can apply that, $20, $200, $500 limit cap to what you need to be worried about to that. I guess you can. But something like a $20 meal, yeah, it's $20. So I do understand that my $20 may not have the same value as someone else's $20. I totally get that. And you explained to me that this podcast is going to be heard by people all over across the world. So yeah, $20 in some countries can go a very, very long way. Um, with that being said, I just believe that as men, just to answer your question, as men, there are way other things to worry about other than food. I mean, because when you look at it that way, it's food. Everybody know what food is. Food is it provides you with life, provides you with energy. Everybody needs to eat, right? Uh, and if you're in a place where you on a date and that $20 may be a stretch for you, well then that's on you. You shouldn't be there, you know. Uh, but let's talk in general. Let's talk in general. So emotional men, mm, we all have emotions. We all have emotions. Uh, we all have our thing we that affects us or causes us to react a certain way. I don't say, I'm not trying to sit here and say that men should not have emotions, because that could be a bad thing for a woman, meaning that, if a woman has an issue and she's trying to uh, tell you her issue, but, you're not emotionally uh, sensitive to her issue, then that may be an issue, you know. You may not understand the actual situation that's going on, but that doesn't excuse you not to be uh, attached to the it doesn't excuse you from being emotionally attached to her words that she's saying and her feelings. So when I said that some men are emotional or overly emotional, I'm also referring to the men that worry about things that I feel is least important. And again, that would be a meal, food. So what should men be worried about? Well, again, your health, your family, your siblings, your mom, your dad. You know, you should be worried about building and being able to provide. Faith, you should be worried about faith. It's okay to be emotional about faith and all of the other things that I just listed. Um, financials, you know, it's okay to be emotional about financials. Position in life, I think that's okay to be emotional about. I just don't feel that, you know, as men, we need to be emotional about paying for a meal, especially if you put yourself in that situation to where you're in a position to pay for a meal. I
Mhm.
mean, because that's, going on a date is a choice. You don't
Mhm.
have to go on a date. Uh, you know what? I can almost say that you probably shouldn't be dating if you don't have your financial situation together. If you don't have a roof over your head, if you don't have a job, you probably need to be focusing on getting those assets first before you can try to date. And the reason why I say that too is because, the way how I see it, I know other men think differently and people have different agendas, but I mean, I was dating for one purpose, and my purpose was to date was to get married. So I was looking for my soulmate. And in order for me to find my soulmate, I needed to have the things that I needed to have to provide her shelter and security, you know? So now with that being said, did I date, did I date and not have a house? Well, of course I did, but I would say still in all, when I was living in an apartment, I had shelter over my head. Uh, the only time that I was not, the only time that I lived some other place other than uh, a house or an apartment was when I was with my mom and my dad, the house that I grew up in, and in the military when I was in the barracks. In the barracks, I honestly did not date. Now, high school, I mean, that's puppy love. I mean, that's you're a kid, you're kind of just dating just so you got a girlfriend. But as an adult, no, I didn't date when I did not have shelter over my head and money in my pocket and a car to drive. So I had all those things first, you know. And in your culture, depending on what area of the world that you're in, uh you may not need a car, like you know what, let's say like New York, so if you was living in New York, yeah, you don't, and NYC, I should say, you know in the heart of the city, yeah, you may not need a car. So these things may vary, but I mean, like, you should still have some assets that's comparable to your living location, meaning that at the end of the day, you should have money. You should be stable to where you have a career. And so work on those things first. And then, when you go out on a date and you have your money in your pocket and you're trying to splurge a little bit, it is what it is. You don't look at it uh, as a hindrance or as a bill. It's entertainment. That's what it is. And you spend that money and it's gone and that's it. You know. Uh, Again, for me, not to keep repeating myself, but again, when I went out, it was because I wanted to share my time, and I paid for that person's meal for offering that person's time to me, and that was it. Yeah. So that's what I meant by the over emotional part.
Right. Got it. Thank you for clarifying. And that last little statement that you mentioned, you were paying for the other person's time. I think that's important for women to hear, especially from a man's perspective. I think that that statement alone is can be a very powerful statement and is really important for a woman to hear because so often um, women are told, that having that thought or that mindset or even uh, thinking that that is okay of well, if I'm going on a date with this man, he why wouldn't he pay for a date if I'm, giving him my time. But that doesn't mean that the man's time is not important either. It's
Absolutely.
just all about choices and, what's, priority, for both people. But nonetheless, I do believe that that statement that you mentioned last was super important coming from a man for other women to be able to hear. So that was awesome. Great timing. And thank you also for confirming or clarifying what you meant by emotional. And the only reason I wanted to bring that back out is just because growing up and especially in the Black culture, men are often raised and trained to where showing emotions is a bad thing, but then that affects them as an individual, as they get older. It affects them from being able to be in tune or to connect to those emotions, which is just a day-to-day normal thing that happens, whether they are a single individual or whether they are in a relationship. Being able to connect with your emotions is just a natural human thing. And I just wanted to clarify that just to make sure that it wasn't taken out of context or misunderstood, just by putting a statement out there, but then not breaking it down. And you definitely broke it down well. So, oh
Absolutely.
man, I agree. And thank you once again. I am definitely going to, I want you back on the show. I want you back. If you will accept my request, I would love to have you back
Absolutely.
for future episodes because you have a lot of information in you. You have a lot of information that I can tell you wanted to talk about, but for sake of time, you didn't know really how deep you can go with it.
Man,
And
look.
I know we jumped around with a few different topics, but yet we still stayed within the lane of dating. So, man, I cannot wait to have you back. And before we close out, I do want to ask you
Sure.
one more closing question before my finale question. So, what's one last takeaway when it comes to dating, for whether you want to give this piece of advice to either men or women or both? What's one last takeaway that you would like to share on the topic of dating?
Mm. Uh, Lack of a better statement right now. Be yourself.
Hmm.
I mean, it's just that simple. Be yourself. I mean, because if you're anything other than yourself, you're lying. So,
Hello.
so yeah, yeah. So lying was my. I think you said it earlier. What was your no or your I forget the term that you use,
Hmm.
but what was your non-negotiables, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's lying.
Yes, sir.
The minute you lie to me, it is absolutely over.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
yeah, point blank, period. Right. So if I have that standard, then I have to also hold up my that standard as to myself. And yeah, lying. So just simply be yourself. You know what? Because you said you bringing me back, right?
Hmm.
So being yourself to women means all this makeup. Oh my God,
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
makeup and
Uh-oh.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
oh. No, don't go there.
Eyelash.
Don't go there.
I'm going. I'm going. All right, because I want to come back on the show. Yep. So eyeliner, eyelash, foundation, Mac or I don't even know all the terms. Weave, Botox, ass shots, breast lifts. Yep.
Whew.
Yeah, I went there. Yep. Not every man like big chest. You know,
Hmm.
not every man like big asses.
Hmm.
Yeah, just be yourself. Be natural. I think when we can get back to being natural, I think we can be back to being happier. You know, uh, since I brought it up, and then, we ain't gonna get into it too deep, but I mean,
No, go ahead.
um, uh, there's nothing wrong with accessories and enhancement, but right now, man, everybody has the same enhancements. Every woman that I see, has the same enhancements as if, you know, uh, trying to enhance themselves to make themselves look beautiful, as if everybody needs to wear eyelashes. I can't stand that. No, just be yourself. That's number one thing. You know what? Let me throw another one in there.
Yeah, you can do a top three if you want to do something like that. Go ahead.
Top three. Okay. Number two thing would be. Just lost my train of thought. Number two thing would be this statement. Oh, this is one of the one statements that I did not like. I know how to treat a man. I hated that statement when I was
Hmm.
dating. Right. I know how to treat a man. Well, every man is not the same.
Hmm.
Just like every woman is not the same. Learn how to treat me. You
Oh,
know, yeah.
yes.
If you learn how to treat me, then we'll be all right.
Hello.
If you
Yes.
if you learn what I like, and what I dislike, then I think we'll be all right. Yeah.
Hmm.
So get rid of that statement of um learn how to or the statement of I know how to treat a man.
Hmm.
Number three, top three things for dating. Everybody doesn't have the third thing would be everybody does not have the same wants.
Hmm.
I wanted to be married. I have a good friend of mine. We talk every day. He does not want to be married. He just doesn't, you know. And and you have to understand that. And once you do figure that out, no matter how much you like this person, you just should realize that, hey, look, if this person does not have what I want, or we're not in the same space, or we're not looking for the same things, just again, simply just move on. Don't try to uh, force your agendas and your agendas and your ideas or your wants on someone else. That would be another thing. That's all I can think about right now. I could probably give about 10 different things,
I
but
Yeah.
but
I
let's just
bet.
do that.
I bet. Oh man. So I have to recap those real quick. Okay. So you said number one, be yourself. And right there, yes. Oh my gosh. Too many people out here are being fake. Too many people out here are trying to be someone that they're not. Both men and
Mhm.
women, but too many people out here are being someone that they're not in order to uh, portray this lifestyle, or having these things, or being this person, or having this status, which is not even themselves. And guess what? They are putting more pressure on themselves and making life harder to live for themselves. It's so much
Absolutely.
easier if you would just be yourself. And at the end of the day, if a person will like you for who you are. If you keep
Absolutely.
lying, which ultimately what being not being yourself is, you're lying about who you are. If you keep lying about who you are, then the person that you have been lying to or portraying this facade to, once they get to know the real you, it's like they felt, you've duped them. And so you still are going to lose that person. You know what I'm saying? So it makes no sense. It doesn't work long term for people who are not being themselves, because you can only keep up that facade for so long. Number
Absolutely.
two, you said, learn how to treat quote unquote me, as opposed to, I paraphrase that, as opposed to saying I know how to treat a man. Learn how to treat the individual for who they are.
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
awesome. I
man, I
love
could not stress that enough, because man, yeah, I hated that when I was dating. I hated that kind of.
Yes, I've been in that same situation. Even as the woman, I've been on the receiving end of it. I don't want the same type of treatment that you gave every other chick that you've been with. I don't want that treatment.
Yeah.
Learn me for who I am, and then treat me for who and how I want to be treated, not from what worked with the prior women that you were with.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And number three, you said everyone has different wants. Absolutely. So don't try to put your wants on someone else. Don't try to force your wants on someone else. I also like to say it as find someone whose values are parallel to your values, because your wants and your values, to me, they kind of go hand in hand. And so that's what struck my thought process when you said number three. Everyone has different wants, and so what you may want, that's fine, but don't try to push that or force that on me.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Those are amazing top three tips for the dating scene, or for just individuals, period, because all of those can just, in order to be able to achieve those things, a person needs to learn who they are. And you hit on that as well. And I'm going to wrap this up by talking about going back to your statement at the very beginning of this podcast. You said that you hated the single life. And I understand. However, I know that there are a lot of other people who also hate being single. They hate the single life. And I'm not, and some of those people will go as far as to play those games, have these hidden agendas in order to do whatever is necessary in order to get with someone, in order to be in a relationship. Just as long as they are not single, they don't care how they make it happen, as long as they're not single. And so for those who hate the single life, I don't want you to waste the time of being single, because being single is more important than even being in a relationship, and it's more important than even being married, because whoever
Absolutely.
you are as a single individual is going to dictate everything about you moving forward, and all of your relationships moving forward, and all of your business endeavors moving forward, and everything about you, period, is going to be dictated based off of who you are as a single individual. So if you are in your single phase of life, then learn to accept that singleness, and understand that it's not a bad thing. Understand that that is the opportune time for you to be able to grow and develop and improve in any of those areas that you know that you need improvement on, or that you know you need improvement in. And so if
Yes.
you, yes sir, yes sir. And just for those who are listening, if you go to my podcast, if you go to my website, if you go to my YouTube channel, or if you even go to my podcast, I Give Life to Life, there are about 2 or 3 episodes that speak specifically about just getting to know yourself. And the
Yeah.
only way that you can really and truly get to know yourself is when you are in your single phase. And then also there's another one talking about the importance of taking time between relationships.
Yes. Oh boy. Yes. Yeah. So, man, I know we're trying to end this
Hey,
podcast.
come on with it. Come on
Hey,
with it.
look. So let me reiterate why I hated being single, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just saying this just because what you just said, but I hated being single because I hated the games that were being played in the
Mm.
city of Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
That because I mean we didn't talk about that yet. We didn't talk about all the different games that were being played that I got hip to, but it takes time to be single and
Mm-hmm.
date. No, now that doesn't like you just said. That that time of being single is time for you to work on yourself. Yes. But once you figure that you kind of got yourself into a place where you can go out and date, you're going to be meeting people that are not having the same mindset that you have.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be out there and they're still going to be building and trying to figure out themselves, which means that they're not on your level. Or better yet, let's say it this way: it's easier to find the wrong person. It's a lot of wrong people out there. If you
Yes.
want to find the wrong person, just jump into a relationship. You'll be
Real
all right.
quick.
Yeah, yeah. You will be just fine and miserable for as long as you're in that relationship. But it's harder to find the right person. All right. And that's the part that I did not like about it. I knew that I had to, you know, keep buying clothes and going on dates and driving to the city of Atlanta and meeting up with this person and being disappointed and coming back home, all up until the time that I found my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for the married people out there, that's when we start to get lazy. you know, you found that person, you like, okay, good. I don't have to do that no more. And you can't stop dating when you're married. But what you are dating is that one person. But yeah, going on dates with multiple people and dealing with different energies and different agendas and yeah, no, I couldn't stand it. No,
Oh
uh,
yeah. Oh
I,
yeah. And
that's
yeah.
the part I didn't like.
No, yeah, absolutely. Thank you again for clarifying your reason for hating the single life. And there, it's that reason that you mentioned, plus so many others. Everyone has their own issues of why they don't like being single, and why they hate that phase of their life. And I just wanted to give just those few examples. And your example that you also gave, which was different from the ones that I mentioned, is something that's common. That whole process, the whole, I mean, because I've been there before as well, of like, oh my gosh, now I got to go start all the way back over again. Let me,
Yes.
meet
Oh,
this person, and then let me try to figure out who they are, and then let me learn,
yeah.
their
I, I,
man.
I I call it the hey, how you doing times. I hate that. Yeah. So I mean, because everybody starts off with the same thing. Hey, how you doing? What's your name? Where you from?
Right. Tell
You
me
know,
something about you.
yeah, what do you do? How long you been in
Right.
Atlanta? Oh, yeah, I got tired of answering those same
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
No, I ain't doing it no more.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my gosh. So I get it. Once again, I get it for those who just are kind of like at that point of being over being single. However, cherish the time that you have of being single, because it is the most valuable time that you will ever have.
Yes.
And that is the time for you to begin to trust yourself again, begin to learn yourself again, and to be able to just to take care of yourself and to go through whatever healing that you have to go through in order to be the best version of yourself that you can be for that relationship that they for that relationship one day that you end up being in, if you do ever decide to get into a relationship, because being in a relationship is not the end all be all, and it's not meant for everyone. So
No.
whatever the reason, at the end of the day, it's all about just making sure that you are the best version of you for you.
Yes. Absolutely.
Awesome. PK, man. Oh my goodness. I appreciate this. So we are done with the dating topic, right? So I always ask one finale question to all of my guests that come on. So
Right.
this question here, and you can either answer it, with something serious, or it can be joking. It's up to you. But let me ask you this question.
Mm.
What's your one thing? That thing that you use as your motivation or your strength to have gotten through the other tough situations that you've been through? What's your one thing?
Faith.
Mm.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, oh boy, that's a big topic. No, faith, because I mean, the reason why I'm saying this is a big topic is because it I have this thing of defaulting to the unknown and tying it to fate.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, man, and it's an issue with me, to be honest with you. But
Mhm.
that's a whole bigger topic that I don't think the listeners are ready for when it's dealing with me. But no, faith. I still have a real strong belief in the Christian faith. I'm a Christian, and if you of any other belief, then lean upon that when you have these issues or situations. Because for me, that's what kept me moving forward always at every time and every situation. Faith. You know what? Let me add on to that too.
Mhm.
Uh, Good friends, not just a friend, good friends.
Mhm.
Uh, if it wasn't for a few good friends, and when I say good friends, I don't necessarily mean a long term friend or a childhood friend, because the people that I call good friends were actually there at the moment of my need, and uh, they were there for that season, that moment, and we may not talk anymore right now, but still doesn't make them not a good friend. They are a good friend because they seen me, quote unquote, drowning, and they were able to help me with a life preserver, you know. And that life preserver doesn't mean, it's an analogy, it doesn't mean that they gave me something. They were just there to help me or walk with me or assist me or monitor me, to be honest with you, monitor me during my time of need to make sure that I didn't do nothing crazy to myself. Yeah, so faith and friends, those would be, faith and good friends would be the two things that kept me moving forward.
Mm. I love it. Faith, yes. Good friends, yes.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. Well, once again, I absolutely appreciate you. I appreciate your time. And I appreciate all the information that you have shared with the listeners here. That's pretty much it for this episode, you guys. If you would like to be a guest, please contact me. You can find me on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform at Coach Energy. And as a reminder, Energy is spelled Nrgy, or you can connect with me by visiting my website, coachenergy.com, and reach out to me. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you want to be a guest. Let me know if there are any issues that you want to discuss or that you want to talk about or that you want me to answer. Send it in anonymously, and then I'll answer it on an episode as well. I can do it either way. But at the end of the day, if there are any issues or concerns that any of you have, then make sure that you reach out. Don't just hold all of that stuff in. Don't just try to deal with things on your own, because you definitely need some assistance. You need some strength. You need a support system to be able to get through this thing that we call life. PK, thank you again. All of my listeners, make sure that you do not forget to subscribe, share, follow, hit the thumbs up button. Let me know how you like this particular episode. You already know how we do it. Get the conversation started below. And as always, remember, keep smiling. Bye bye.